So if you listen to folks like Lavrov for some period of time, you'll get the idea that there is actually some coherent theory or ideology driving the Russians, right? They're standing up to the West, or they're driving out here the neo-Nazi government from Ukraine. But it's not like that at all. It turns out it's very much not like that. And I'm going to show you through a different set of eyes. So this is the Supreme Mufti of Ukraine. Well, okay, so his title is Saeed Ismagilov. He's Ukraine's Supreme Mufti who's been fighting for Ukraine for the last 3 years. In case you're wondering, a Mufti is an Islamic jurist qualified to issue a non-binding opinion, a fatwa, on a point of Islamic law. So he's a Muslim, and this is the way that he's understanding what's going on and thinking and processing. Sheikh Saeed is, excuse me for slaughtering the name, Ismagilov is a Mufti of the Religious Administration of Muslims in Ukraine, and Ummah, one of Muslim spiritual leaders of Ukraine, president of the All Ukraine Public Organization, Ukraine Center for Islamic Studies, head of the Muslim community Nur of Donetsk City, member of the public organization Al-Amal of Donetsk City. Okay, so that's who this guy is, and that's who we're going to be hearing from in this. All right, so he has an interesting perspective that's very different than Lavrov's perspective. Again, Lavrov will try to elevate it and make it seem like Russia's on the side of mom and apple pie and all things good and wholesome, but that's not the way it works. And the motives may be quite a bit more base than what Lavrov would let you think. Okay, so here's what he had to say. He was talking about the Russian soldiers, and he was saying that this society is a swarm of locusts. Their purpose is to push forward no matter what, seizing new territories. Now, let's stop there for a second. This is how Russia began and grew so big, because this is what Russia, like, you don't become the largest country on earth without, growing over your neighbors as they have for a long time. And they're trying to re-Sovietize, not in the communist sense, but re-Sovietize in the sense of taking back this sphere of influence that they believe is their lands. Okay. Every day in Vovchansk, they advance in a small group of 3 to 5. Climbing over the corpses of those who hours earlier stormed the same position. No sense, no reason, no success, just piling bodies against us. Okay, so this is meat grinder tactics, and they just keep moving forward, and they keep being sent. So there's two parts to this. There's the management malpractice, or I guess in this case, military malpractice, of misusing your human resources by just sending them into the slaughter. And then there's the guys that are actually going into the slaughter. Like, what are they thinking? Why are they going, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm going to climb over the body of this guy and go and get shot myself. Okay, this differs from Soviet Marshal Zhukov's meat grinder assaults only in that they now attack in smaller groups. Okay, so the same thing that they did 80 years ago, we were just talking about the great 80 years ago victory of the Great Patriotic War, which was World War II, with the ugly bits about how you were part of, like linked with Stalin, or linked between Stalin and Hitler, left out. That's the Great Patriotic War. It's the same tactics, just on a smaller scale. Not to capture kilometers, but to take a single position of a few square meters. Day after day, methodically, wave after wave. So what's going through these guys' minds when they're doing this? And so he is an Islamic scholar, and he's going to be trying to think and process and see what's actually happening. He says, but with some insane persistence, the individual dissolves, becoming part of the swarm. It's really interesting. And Russia is a far more collectivist culture than in the West. And so maybe that's part of the picture. But you would think that your own desire for self-preservation, your instinct to not die, would keep you from that. And again, you're being sent into the slaughter by officers who don't care about your well-being. Okay, the individual dissolves, becoming part of the swarm, where the death of a few doesn't even register. Like, okay, well, I mean, like, human life isn't really as high a value in this world. I can't explain why they keep coming, even knowing we'll kill them. He goes on and says, my philosophical education stops me from seeing this routine through a mathematician's eye, simply noting -1, -5, -40. Like there's something more to it than that, is what he's saying. My philosophical and theological training pushes my mind to make sense of why this conditional Homo erectus, now he's talking about why these people, he's talking about conditional Homo erectus, he says upright man, because I can't organically call them Homo sapiens, seeing no rationality, that's what it actually is meaning, in their actions, why these people are climbing over the corpses of their swarm to certain death. Like, for what? What's the motivation? What do they hope to gain? Okay, I'll tell you this. If, I don't really like heights, but if my children were in danger, I'd climb the highest mountain and do whatever it took to save them, right? But that's not what's going on here. They're not doing this to save their comrades, and there's no great deep, regardless of what Lavrov says, there's no real ideological core to what's happening here. So he goes on and he says, when I spoke to Russian POWs, they all said they wanted money from Putin's regime to improve their financial situation. Wait a minute. That's the motive. That's the only. Okay. So yeah, I want money too. Everybody wants money so that they can improve their lot. I get that. But is that the motivation to come and kill? Like, how does that make you better than a common criminal? Not one mentioned ideological motives, belief in higher values, or a lofty goal like driving out the neo-Nazis and I mean, I get it if early on they were duped, but at this point they know that it's not that, and they're just doing it because they want money. No one mentioned ideological motives, belief in higher values, or a lofty goal, just loans, debts, mortgages, poverty, and a need to raise kids. So he then asked, so you came to kill our children to raise yours? Think about that. Think about the enormity of that question. You came to kill our children in order to raise yours. Silence. Eyes down. But that's the reality. They'd calmly kill us and our children, take our homes, sleep in our beds, even wear our clothes. They don't see it as repulsive or wrong. Something somewhere has misfired in the moral education of the people that are willing to do this kind of thing. Don't you think? Their authorities gave them permission, so it's fine. Without hesitation, they'd wear your dress, eat from your plate, because their czar and church blessed it. Right? That's who the Russians are, the Russian army. They come to take and devour our resources, to populate our land with themselves, while the swarm's leaders try to explain why they attack and kill us. The lower ranks just want to enrich themselves by murdering and looting. Right? That's really the motivation here. And it's pretty shameful. This is why you see lots of things like I just saw again this week, more eliminating, how do I say this for YouTube? Eliminating POWs that shouldn't be eliminated because it's a war crime, right? We saw more of that by the Russians this week, and it seems like it's a perennial issue with them. He goes on and says the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave an interesting take on human stupidity and greed. He talked about a mountain of gold, and people will fight over it, and out of every 100, 99 will die, yet each will think, maybe I'll be the one to survive. Probably not. He said, watching them, I wonder if each one charges into the assault thinking they'll be the one to survive and get rich. But then our guys hit them, and the stats report, another 5 down, dead. Isn't that an interesting take on like what the Russians are doing and why they're doing it? And then it really helps us understand when Darth Putin's talking about things like, yeah, I normally end with Darth Putin. We killed a bunch of old ladies fleeing from our liberation in the name of family values. Well, no, you didn't do it for that. You did it because you were stealing and killing because you're a thug. I mean, that's what that is. Or we see this. Russia's a peaceful country and will fight this war we started for another 20 years. No, you're an imperialist power that has not been taught a lesson to not be an imperialist power. So you keep doing it and you'll keep doing it until you're taught that lesson. And then finally, today is the day of Black Sea Fleet. This was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And you just see an empty ocean because, yeah, right? I remain a master strategist. Yeah. And they do this. They put themselves in harm's way for what? not for any higher moral purpose, but as he was talking about, because this is just a base motive of stealing from me to give to you. Okay. Tell me what you thought about this. I thought this was deeply insightful of the Russian soldier's psyche, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.